Hey guys. Welcome to Whispers of Turkish Stars. All the details you're craving are right here, so don't forget to subscribe and share before we dive in. Thank you so much. Now take a breath, because what unfurled this morning has shaken the entertainment world and pulled Erkan Meriç straight into the center of a storm he never asked for. Not because of a new role, not because of a series finale, but because the most private part of his life stumbled into a public hallway. Cold floors, quick steps, hushed voices, and the microphones were already waiting. According to what's being whispered along those marble corridors, Erkan Meriç and Hazal Subaşı faced one another as part of a legal process that many had suspected but few dared to say out loud. The hearing began early, when the courthouse air still carries the chill of morning, and from the very first minute the tension was impossible to miss. Witnesses describe Erkan's expression as steady but remote, the self-control of a leading man rewritten into silence. Hazal, meanwhile, was not alone. She came with the quiet tether of support, close friends, trusted confidants, people who don't need to speak to be heard. For months now, rumors had floated in and out of the conversation, little hints, ambiguous posts, an unfollow here, a delayed appearance there, a smile that seemed thinner than it used to. Those signs, so small, so easy to dismiss, have now been stitched into a timeline that ends at a courtroom door. Sources close to the couple insist that whatever they've been going through didn't appear out of nowhere. They say it built slowly, layer by layer, in the calm between premieres and wrap parties, and only now has it taken on a shape the public can't ignore. Even so, everyone involved is said to be clinging to confidentiality like it's a life raft, guarding details, respecting boundaries, keeping the language clinical so the feelings don't spill over. Inside the courtroom, emotions reportedly rose and fell in carefully measured waves. No shouting matches, no dramatic walkouts, just the kind of restrained pain that sits heavy on the chest and refuses to move. It's said the lawyers did most of the talking. That's what happens when you can't risk a word being twisted. You put your voice in someone else's mouth and hope it comes out right. To those who watched from the benches, it was clear that whatever they're moving through is complicated. It was equally clear that both Erkan and Hazal are walking this tightrope with every ounce of dignity they have left. And then, a presence that no one could ignore drew all eyes to the back of the room, Sinael. Even before the hearing began, whispers rippled through the crowd. Why was she there? What did it mean? Was she summoned as a witness? Was she there to offer moral support to Erkan? Did she simply appear because sometimes showing up is the only thing you can do for someone you care about? No one knew, and that uncertainty was the spark that lit the day. The second her name slipped onto social feeds, the conversation morphed into a maze of theories that multiplied by the minute. From the first time the public saw Erkan and Hazal together, the perception was that they knew how to hold a spotlight without letting it burn them. That poise didn't vanish today. Even as they sat just meters apart, guided by counsel, the sense was that they were doing everything they could to keep the temperature down. Yet the air trembled anyway. You could measure it in the way people folded their arms, in the way phones were lowered when the judge walked in, in the way even whispers sounded loud. It said there were moments when eyes found eyes, not with accusation, but with the deep fatigue of two people who have said all they can say behind closed doors. When the doors finally opened and the hall swallowed everybody whole, the silence became its own headline. Erkan did not answer questions, slipping past the cameras with that same composed calm he carried inside, a presence that somehow felt softer than his public image and harder than it used to be. Hazal, visibly affected, offered nothing to the flashes but a quiet refusal. And behind them, not far behind, Sinael left just as she had arrived, without a statement, without a glance at the chaos blooming around her. It was like watching a scene fade to black in the middle of a sentence. Of course, the internet does not wait for clarity. Within minutes, the topic was everywhere. Threads spun theories into scripts, edits stitched together old footage with new speculation, and each angle generated another dozen questions. Some voices argued that Sinael's presence might be completely innocent, that mixing friendship with courtroom drama is a recipe for misreading. Others were convinced her appearance meant something more, something larger than anyone wanted to admit. The contrast between those two readings, comfort versus implication, has kept the story hovering in that uneasy space where truth and projection blur. What we can tell you is this: no official updates on the substance of the case have been made public. people close to both sides emphasize that confidentiality is a priority. There is a deliberate choice being made to keep the language cool, to keep the process clean, to avoid the kinds of slips that can turn a private wound into a public spectacle. Those same sources say Erkan has long felt uncomfortable with the circus that forms anytime his personal life even brushes a rumor. He has said as much in the past how he wants the work to speak and the rest to stay quiet. Yet here he is again, pulled back under the bright lights he didn't ask to stand in today. As for Hazal, those who know her describe a calm resolve, a need to keep things grounded, to shield family and friends from the stray sparks this kind of moment can throw. Whatever is unfolding, she reportedly wants it handled firmly and discreetly. And that wish has a shape now. The hearing, after a tense morning, was postponed to a later date. In one sense, it offers everyone a breath. In another, it invites a longer pause for people to imagine their own endings, and you know how imagination can get when it's left alone with silence. All eyes are now trained on the next move. Will Erkan speak? Will Hazal break her silence? Will Sinael clarify why she was there at all? Maybe none of them will. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the loudest answer right now is the choice not to feed a fire that grows every time someone tosses in a word. But make no mistake. That brief appearance in a sterile room has become the most talked about scene of the week. And whether we like it or not, the plot is still unfinished. Behind the scenes, people who have watched this couple from the beginning can't help reciting the old reel: first glances, first interviews, the electricity that made fans feel like they were in on a secret. They talk about the timing of their successes, the way schedules stretched, the way distance can slip, and even when you're standing side by side. The industry is not kind to quiet hearts. It demands presence, movement, another take, another city, another press day. Love can survive that. Many say it does. But sometimes it emerges changed, threaded with a new understanding that isn't ready for a frame-by-frame breakdown online. Inside that courtroom, though, none of that romance played out. This was paperwork, procedure, posture. It was a judge reminding everyone that feelings do not rewrite the rules, and lawyers translating emotion into paragraphs. Even so, those who watched say the human part was impossible to miss. A hand that tightened around a pen. A breath held between questions. The careful way eyes avoided the rows where people were clearly waiting for a hint. And always, the knowledge that a name and a headline can shrink a person to a storyline they never auditioned for. Sinael's appearance remains the wild card. Theories keep multiplying because ambiguity is oxygen online. Was she listed in the file? Was she told to wait in case a statement was needed? Or was it simpler friendship, a quiet promise kept, and I'll be there that requires no explanation? Until someone places a period at the end of that sentence, it'll keep trailing off into new paragraphs written by strangers. What's undeniable is that her presence changed the temperature of the room and gave the day a second life outside the building. As the sun shifted and the crowd thinned, the story didn't end, it dispersed. By afternoon, clips of Erkan's silent exit had been looped 1,000 times. Still frames of Hazal's downcast gaze were annotated like a detective board. Users debated body language as if it were law. And through it all, the official line didn't budge: confidentiality, respect for process. A hearing moved to another day. It's a paradox the public knows too well by now: the less said, the more we say. For now, the safest truth is the simplest one. Something serious is being handled where it should be, within the rules, under watchful eyes, without the audience the outside world wants to be. The emotions are real, the stakes are high, and the people at the center are doing their best to walk a narrow path that won't shatter what's left. Until there is a statement, everything else is an echo in a crowded hall. We'll keep listening, carefully, respectfully, and bring you whatever can be verified when it's time. Until then, remember that even the brightest stars deserve a dark sky to find their way. This is Whispers of Turkish Stars, signing off for now. If you enjoyed the update, subscribe and share, and we'll meet again when the next chapter writes itself.